Hey, friends, thanks so much for being here. It's me, Christiana Gaudet, your Tarot Fairy Godmother. This is a workshop called Mixed Media. As you can see, we're going to talk about different ways that we can use different divination systems together in the same reading. Whether it's in the same reading to answer different questions, same questions, lots of different ways to do this. Now, obviously, there are so many different divination tools. I am not going to be teaching you how to read all the tools tonight because I don't know how to read all the tools. But we are going to be talking about what some of the different tools are and the different ways that they might be compatible or might not be compatible and how that can all work. If you're watching in replay, thanks so much for being here. If you are here with us live, thank you so much for being here. Mix, you are from Canada. You're off doing trivia. I've had a couple of requests not to put things on Thursdays anymore. So I'll start scheduling as we get into June. I'll start scheduling off Thursdays and on to other days because there's a few of you that can't be here on Thursday. But nonetheless, Mixier has started us out with a super chat. So thank you so much for that. Special shout out to all the members, all the moderators. Thank you all so much for being here. So, I do not have like a whole lot of answers or expertise on this topic. What I have is a lot of fascination, and here's why. As y'all know, typically, I have just been a tarot person. I started out when I was 8 with the G-Witch fortune-telling cards. My first sort of adult divination was with I Ching, which I used from like age 19 to age early 20s. Maybe actually going all the way up to about 24 when tarot took over. Hi, Beat of the Fields. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. So I've been pretty much tarot. I've tried to play a bit with Lenormand. I'm not great at it. And when it comes to tarot, I'm very specifically weight-based. But some of you know, because you hang out on this channel with me, fairly recently I got into charms because people kept giving me charms. And one day before I was going to do a broadcast here, I was just really not in the mood. I was just not in the mood. And I was like, what's going to put some spice into this for me? I figure I'll be spicy enough for you no matter what. But what's going to put some spice into this for me? And I looked at all the decks. Sometimes I like to switch up decks. Really didn't see anything. Saw my charms. And I was like, what would happen if I played with tarot and charms, right? So we did that. And then at StarCon this past year, I got the Southern Botanic Oracle by Stacey Williams-Eng. She will actually be not only vending but presenting at StarCon 2024. We're really excited about that. And I love this Oracle deck. And so I've been playing with, let's do a tarot card and an Oracle card. Let's do a tarot card, an Oracle card, and a charm. Let's play with this. And it really re-energized me. It was a lot of... Right, Beat of the Fields, what's going to add charm? Exactly. It really made it more interesting for me. It got me thinking again, and it got me like re-engaged. So when we talk, maybe the first question is, why would you use different systems? Because it gets your brain out of a rut and into new ways of thinking about things. Because sometimes, Sarah, the food oracle deck. Yes, so good. I lent mine to someone. I don't have mine right now, but yes, absolutely. From StarCon as well, yes. Betty, I did bibliomancy earlier, and it so blew my mind again, right? And I think when you combine, so why use multiple systems and combine them? Because it can be like rejuvenating in your divination. But it can also, another reason to do it, it can be mind-blowing because they confirm each other. It's so interesting how that works. And so, can you get a better reading by using multiple systems together? I think that's up to the reader. I think some readers would say yes, some readers would say no, but I think it's a great practice and it's great to play with. That said, there are no rules here. I can tell you what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with today. Tomorrow, that might change, but there are no rules. So I would love to hear from you before we get started, before we start going through all of this. I would love to hear from you, whether for yourself, for others, professionally or not. Do you combine systems or tools in a single reading? And if so, how? For example, let's talk about some ways that this can happen. Some readers like to end a tarot reading, like to pull a single card from an oracle deck to end the tarot reading, to sort of tie things up. Some people like to go to a different tool when they're confused by what they're seeing in their primary tool, looking for, how do we want to put it? Looking for insight that they weren't finding in their tool. Some people will do multiple cards from multiple decks as part of the reading, not like opening or closing, but all the way through. So here's what we see. Trey uses oracle cards to clarify a tarot card. Sarah combines tarot and runes. The rune is the energy of the day, and the tarot card is how to navigate through that energy. I love that. Hey, Tess, nice to see you here. Treasure Coast Medium, glad you're here. Trey, the only divination I've had bad experiences with are pendulums. For me, I haven't found them to be that accurate. Today, we're going to play with a pendulum. I've had the same experience. I'm not a huge pendulum fan for that reason, but if you bring pendulum into this mixed media arena, it can be helpful. But I agree, I don't use it on its own. I don't use it as a primary tool. Sarah, I think mixed media adds more layers confirming the same message. It's different than just pulling more cards. It does feel more magical, doesn't it? It really does. Right. And Tess says, well, the charms are fun. They are fun. They are fun. So let's talk about, Teresa C., nice to see you. I like using Sacred Path and Animal Medicine cards, 2 great oracle decks with tarot. Perfect. So tell me, though, how? Like when you say using them together, how? Can you give me the breakdown of what is the choreography on that? How does that work? If you don't mind, share with me how that works. How do you use them together? Lisa Harmon, nice to see you. Oracles to clarify. Just got a pendulum and runes. Haven't used either, but I'm looking to learn. Hey, Tortoiseshell Moon, Kathy, thanks for rejoining and becoming a member again. Audrey M., I sometimes use the pendulum to help me choose which decks to use. I love that. I love that. Intuitive Impressions, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. I combine tarot, oracle, crystals, and charms. I recently started reading I Ching with an element of human design. The more you could tell me about that, I would be so happy if you want to tell me how. How do you do the combinations? That's what I want to know. If you're willing. If you're not willing, that's okay too. So for being in the field, Serena, thanks for being a member here. Tarot is the main tool. Oracle adds. Herbs and crystals empower where and how my client wants to go. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And Tess, T. Tetrol, says we need to have more fun in our work helping others. I agree. I agree. And then when we're having fun, everyone's having fun. It's good. So let me tell you what I brought to class today. And again, it's not certainly all my tools. It's not all your tools, but it's an example we can play with. Teresa, I use the oracles to set the tone, sort of speak and to clarify deeper with tarot and vice versa. Right. So to play with them together. Okay, so let's see what I brought here. And if you have interesting things with you today, go ahead and tell us what you've got with you on your table. What are you playing with today? I have my Wiser deck. Y'all know that my primary tool is a weight-based tarot deck. So here we got that. That's my primary thing. I have a Lenormand deck. Pixie's Astounding Lenormand is one of my favorites. I am not a good Lenormand reader. I'm really, really not. Now, I have learned that with this particular system, you really need at least 2 cards. So pulling a second, pulling a single card from this may or may not be helpful, but pulling 2 might be. Okay, Sarah, I'll do my rune tarot thing, then pick a crystal that I think complements that energy and put it on a chakra that matches the energy of the day and meditate, even if just for 5 minutes. It's beautiful. I love that. I love seeing how many people naturally incorporate tools of healing with tools of divination and use healing and divination together. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Intuitive impressions. Thanks for sharing this. I use the upper and lower trigrams of the I Ching along with what I know of the lines in human design. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Teresa C. using Light Seers and Sacred Path. That's a nice pairing. Intuitive impressions as well as the I Ching Bagua map. Now, I know Bagua as feng shui. I didn't know that there's a connection with the I Ching, although it would make sense that there would be. But, as I said, I'm not well versed in all of this. All right, so what else do I have? I have my yummy Southern Botanic Oracle. I have this. Do y'all know this deck? The Star That Never Walks Around. This is an example, not my favorite example, but the one I could find easily in my office. It's a tarot deck that is a non-traditional tarot deck. I sometimes have very specific uses for non-traditional tarot decks that I wouldn't use this deck to do a client reading. But there's a number of ways I might use a deck like this. I might. And as an adjunct, as an add-in, and we'll talk about ways of doing that, but I might, Let's put that over there. Here's another tarot deck, Orbifold. Do you know this deck? I love this deck. A lot of people don't love this deck because it's so different. And it is actually its differences that I really respond to. It is entirely geometric, right? So that's a whole thing, right? Now, do I like to do a full reading with this deck? I don't. But this is fun to bring in as a companion. So, one point I've just made, you can use 2 very different tarot decks or tarot decks of 2 very different traditions together as part of your mixed media. Okay, let's see. So Trey uses Radiant Weight, and the Oracle with the angel looking thing in the purple box on your table. This Conscious Spirit Oracle deck came out because it is one of my favorite Oracle decks. So these 2 right here, these would be my 2 favorite Oracles that are in my possession. A couple of other decks have been mentioned that I also really like here, but I don't have. Sacred Path. Is it Sacred Path? Medicine? Teresa, Sacred Path. Yeah, I like that one. I don't have it. Lisa Harmon, is Orbifold sacred geometry? I mean, yes and no. Yes and no. Peter the Fields, you were fascinated with the Orbifold when it came out. Yeah. Well, you know what it was? It was that the creator of the Orbifold, Michael Bridge Dixon, was really good at promoting it and sort of like reached out to me a lot. So that's why that happened. So, if you've got your own tarot deck that you're trying to promote and you stay in my field of vision a lot and you talk to me a lot, I'm gonna promote it. That's what's gonna happen. So there it is. Betty, I'd love to learn palm readings or tea leaves. Do I do those? And I could do them all and be awesome. Yeah, in some lifetime, I suppose. I do palm readings. But I will tell you, I'm like super non-traditional about it. I only do it in person. Like if you come to my office for an in-person reading, we will look at your hands. 9 times out of 10, I will want to look at your hands. And I will be hired sometimes to be the palm reader at the party. But I'm not really schooled in it. You may have noticed I put up a new rant today, and the rant is about distance readings. And one of the things I said in the rant is the reason I can do distance readings is I don't do psychometry. But the truth is, when I'm reading palms, a lot of what I'm doing is psychometry. What I'm getting from touching your hand, honestly. So there's that. Oh, Nicholas, so nice to see you. Can we use the Major Arcana as a primary tool and then a second Rider-Waite for clarification? Sure you could. Trey, I've read tea leaves and palms for people. I just use my intuition purely, never read a book and been really accurate. Right? I feel like these very personal things, like tea leaf reading, palm reading, these are very personal things. So if you just kind of use your intuition, you can do well. Oh, Julia, you're an awesome hand reader. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Tortoiseshell Moon, Kathy. My primary is usually Tarot de Marseille or sometimes Robin Wood in the Celtic Oracle. I often use runes or sometimes astrodice too, depending on how I feel, right? Very good. Okay, so now let's get down here. What else do we have? If you could see the whole of what I'm working with here, you would laugh at me. I've got like towers of decks. This is from Amy Zerner and Monty Farber, The Truth Fairy. It's a pendulum set, and you do not need a pendulum set, but I actually think this is really, really cool. So check this out. It comes with this pendulum, and look. The pendulum opens, so you can put little crystals in there. You could put oil in there. No, I wouldn't put oil in there. It would leak out. Probably. But you could put herbs in there. I mean, there's a lot of magical stuff you could put in there to enchant your pendulum. I think that's cool. And so this comes with this whole book, which is kind of cool. But it also comes with these charts. Different questions and charts for different kinds of readings to do with your pendulum. And I feel like the reason that a lot of us get discouraged with pendulums is because we really just try to do the show me yes, show me no. And then, sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong because it's like way too much of a binary. Whereas if you're working with a chart, if you make a pendulum chart, it's a lot better. And my point is, like, how to use pendulum with any of these other tools, let the tool become the chart. And I'll show you what I mean. So, let's start talking about the charms. All right, where did my charms come from? They were all gifts. But you may not be so lucky. You can get charms really, really cheap on Amazon and make your own charm set. Or you can go to Lady Lenormand. A lot of these come from Lady Lenormand because she's really kind. You can buy on Etsy or whatever, you can buy a lot of charm sets. Lisa, I have led you into temptation with the pendulum set. Right? It's cool, right? Right? So, the thing that's interesting about charms is there's no set meaning for anything, and there is no set way to read them. And I think this has been what's been so freeing for me, is I'm very used to, in any system I work in, really thinking about the tradition, the history, my personal history with each card, right? But with something like this, I got no history here. There's no tradition. It's whatever you feel. It's whatever you think in the moment. And that is really, really freeing. And so working with something like this, especially if you're trained in a system like tarot or Lenormand, I feel like this just opens you up and it reminds you to be intuitive. Betty, I love that your daughter made the bowl. Yes, when she was in high school. This was, I think, there's a grade on the bottom. No, there's not. It's the year 2000, but there's no grade. But I think she got an A or an A minus for it. I think she made it in school, obviously. Okay, Sarah, with charms, how do you make sure you shuffle them, so to speak, and not to keep picking the biggest one over and over? It's an issue. It's an issue. And you may, I like to have a lot of charms because you can get to know how they feel. So you can say, ooh, not that one, this one. But I shuffle like this. And if I'm doing a charm reading, this is my new system for doing a charm reading. And I will tell you that this is just what I've developed. You can take notes, you can try it, you can say, no, that's not for me. Either the charms are not for me or the charms are for me, but this system is not for me. But this is a system that I've developed just by the seat of my pants because I now have a bowl of charms and I have to do something with it. So here's how I do it, right? Okay, here I'll show you. So I dig in and I go from the bottom, to make sure that I don't just have big ones. Now, if I'm going for just a single one, I'll go to the bottom. And Tortoiseshell Moon, I've got a charm set from Etsy that I've added to with old keychains and odds and ends that I've come across over time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your charm, there's no right number of charms. It can just keep on growing. Claire C. says, charms remind me of milagros, which are used for prayers and manifestation in Mexico. Makes sense. So suppose I was just doing a general charm reading. Okay. I would stir it up like that and get a handful. And this is called sortilege, when you just cast something, right? That's sortilege. So there it is. Make sure it all landed on the table. Put it in, make sure they're all in the field of view. And then I don't worry about reversals. I turn everything right side up and straight up. And what I tend to do is, so I just sort of organized them, but I kept them about where they were. And I look at 3 rows, here is a row, here is a row, and here is a row. And for me, the 3 rows are, this is what's foundational. So foundational right now is the baseball cap. This is the day-to-day stuff, what's going on day-to-day. And this is sort of the higher, whether it's spiritual, higher power, or just what's on the top of your mind. So as you can see, I got most of the stuff in my day-to-day. And I would put all of this together. I think it's interesting that I got not 1, but 2 sweets, which I could take to mean to talk about dietary stuff. But I could also take it I should be enjoying the sweetness of life. There's a lot here that speaks to me personally. The Herald Rabbit from from Alice in Wonderland, or Alice Through the Looking Glass. I'm particularly partial to Lewis Carroll and to Alice. And so that just means something personal to me. But it's also a herald, so it's a messenger. The fleur-de-lis, which can speak to tradition, for me has a special meaning because my grandmother loved this symbol. So when this comes up for someone else, I may speak about tradition, but when it comes up for me, I think about my grandmother. The anchor, I see as a sign of safety. Oh, Caroline, you got a friend. That is so good. I'm looking forward to having a copy of that. And then here, like what's on my mind, toxic travel, do not go to Paris. No, seriously, on a more spiritual level, I feel like I've been thinking about like the institutions, the things that have been long-standing, and how much they are helpful and how much they just need to be destroyed. I've been thinking about that. Baseball cap at the foundation. Like, I really see this as just, it's a protective piece of clothing. It might be fashionable, but it's also protective. And so like at the bottom, it's interesting that here there's a sense of protection and here there's a sense of being clear what we need to be protected from. And then here's just me dealing with my stuff. So I could talk about that for a long time, but that's a way that I play with it. Now we'll talk about how we mix them up with other things. Let's see. Justine, I enjoy watching you do the charm interpretations in addition to our weekly cards. Like this week, my card was the moon, and the charm you drew for me was the sun. That was neat. It's so cool how they come up, right? Lisa Harmon, does distance from the center have any difference in meaning in casting charms? Not for me, but for you it might. It might. So Claire, could it be a message from your grandmother who might be French? So that's funny because my grandmother was not French, but she sure was like a Francophile, for sure. So yeah, there could be a message from her there. Absolutely. Sarah, I see that charm reading kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Safety on the bottom, enlightenment, transformation on the top, and all the stuff in the middle, right? So that's a way. That's a way. So now let's talk about how we can combine different systems. And let's say that you're doing a reading for someone with your regular old tarot deck, and you get through the whole reading, and it's time for the reading to be over. And so then you may say, okay, just pick a couple of charms. And that I would just put kind of in a line and see how they all go together to tie up the reading. And I would see how these charms spoke to what was in the reading. But we also might pull an oracle card to end the reading. So Tess, most times spirit goes to metaphor first. That's an interesting thing. That would be a really interesting argument to have with a Lenormand reader. Because Lenormand is typically not at all metaphor. So that's an interesting thing. And that's why I'm so bad at reading Lenormand, because as a tarotist, I'm trained for the metaphor. So it's an interesting thing. Tortoiseshell Moon, when I'm doing inner child work, I've got tiny little Care Bear figures, and pull one and use the archetype of that bear. Bedtime bear means looking for sleep and rest. That is really cute. That makes so much sense. I love that. So suppose you were going to end a reading with a card from this oracle deck. Okay, and you just did the reading, and then we have embrace change. I move easily and confidently through the changes in my life. That might tie the reading up very nicely. But suppose you wanted to do it the other way. Suppose to start the reading, we're going to pull an oracle card to, Lenormand does have a lot of rules. Although there are people who are now sort of bucking the rules. So there's now going to be intuitive Lenormand readers, even though that was never a thing before. There's going to be now. So imagine that you're starting a reading. You're going to do a tarot reading or a palm reading or a rune reading. But let's pull one oracle card to set the tone for that reading. And suppose that was the card you pulled was the Wheel of Life. I'm guided by the cycles of life and live in complete harmony with them. So now we know that the reading we're going to do is going to be about all aspects of life and how that all works together. So it's a way to sort of set the stage for a general reading or a full reading. Now, well, so Trey, the rules are really made to be broken. That's such an interesting concept. Like if you compare Lenormand with tarot, let's think about the historic differences. Tarot started as a game, and its occult meanings have evolved over many years. While Lenormand was based on a game, really based on two games, the Game of Hope and the standard card deck. It is a subset of the standard card deck. But it was designed after the death of Mademoiselle Lenormand. It was named after her. And I do believe that she also did divination with a subset of playing cards. But this deck was created with rules in mind about how to work with it. So the original founders, the original creators of this deck said, okay, this is what this is. Whereas tarot, no. So they have two very different origin stories. Does that mean that we have more of a responsibility to follow the rules here and not here? No, you can do whatever you want. There's no police. You can do whatever you want. All right. Oh, you're doing the thing with Nancy and Carrie that is so good. That is so good. I love that. Oh, this is so many good questions. Here we go. Intuitive impressions. I sometimes cast charms over the spread. Yes, we are going to move into that in just a moment. Any charms that touch the cards adds an element to the cards. I love that. We're going to play with that in a minute. That's beautiful. Nicholas, how do we know the reading is complete? With mixed oracles, it can go on and on and on. So that's an interesting thing. In a professional setting, like I read by time, the reading is complete when the time's up. And it's my job to make sure the reading feels complete in that thing. How else? The reading is complete when all your questions are answered. The reading is complete when you feel complete with it. So it's either how much time you have or if all your questions are answered. That's what I would say. Betty, would be cool to find tarot charms with symbols from the Waite deck. I'm sure you can find them. Just Google it. They're there. They're there. Oh, that is so good, Caroline. You know, I talk with Nancy from time to time. I'm going to let her know that I heard great feedback. Okay, Tortoiseshell Moon. When combining oracle cards, I often pull an oracle card to get the energy, then a tarot card for a message from that energy. So that's really going one and one. So let's play with that. Okay, so here, let's do that just for fun. We're going to use Southern Botanic. And we're going to pull, okay, so how is this? An oracle card to get the energy and then a tarot card to get for a message from that energy. Let's try that. Okay, oracle card to get the energy. The energy is sugar maple, very appropriate for this class, information and knowledge. Okay, that's the energy. And so now here's a tarot card that is a message from that energy, the Queen of Pentacles. And so what would we do with that? The more that we nurture our knowledge through sacred, disciplined practice, the more benefit that knowledge will be for us. That's fabulous. All right. So now, where else would we potentially use multiple decks? And I will tell you, there are times I will use multiple tarot decks, as discussed, never from the same system. So for instance, suppose I did a reading. I put out a bunch of cards. I did a reading, and I had questions about, let's just say it looked like that. Suppose I had questions about what the Chariot was referring to, what aspect of life the Chariot was referring to. I might pull another card there. Or suppose from this reading, we developed a question that was not answered. I might go to these cards and say, okay, well, the answer to the question is here. Might go like that. Trey tried it. Wow, I got 3. Transformation, journey within to find my higher self and to find true happiness. Clarified with the True of Swords. How amazing. Okay, Beat of the Fields. I use multiple tarot decks as a rule in my practice. Tell me how, tell me how, tell me how. How does that work? Trey, tarot clearly came from Atlantis, of course. Of course. So, let's talk about ways to use charms and pendulum and tarot together. So suppose you did a tarot spread. I'll just, once again do some spread here. Okay, we'll just do that. Now, then suppose we do exactly as Intuitive Impressions says, and toss some charms. And the charms that don't fall in a card are not as important, so we'll put those over here. Now, I did drop them right in the middle, but they could have gone other places. We've got this peace sign with the dove, sitting right on what I would read as the significator, which is the 3 of Swords reversed, which for me is about healing. So I would interpret that to find peace in your healing process. Now, we've got all of these things: love, partnership, babies, ideas, lightning, candy, questions, Mario questions, a leaf, all of this different stuff, and it's all on the Fool. And the Fool is crossing the Tower reversed. So I would look at that as, I have a lot I have to figure out in my life. I've got to figure out my relationships. I've got to figure out my goals. I've got to figure out my balance. I have a lot I have to figure out. Why is this all out of balance? Because I've been in a healing process. So now, what would we do? What would we do with the pendulum? I might hold the pendulum over each card and look for a big swing. And if I got a big swing on any card, I would want to dig into that card more. Like, for instance, nothing has been giving me a swing, but then I get to, you can't really see it, sorry, but it is swinging. Sorry, you can't see it. There you go, a little bit, yep. As soon as we get to this card right here with the peace sign, the swing has started. So that might tell me to dig into that card. Now, how would I dig into that card? I would dig into that card either by, let's talk about that card, let's think about that card, let's write about that card, or maybe this is where I would use another deck to pull more about, we already had the High Priestess, let's put a different card there, to learn more about that. So I would dig in there. So we just saw here 2 tarot decks, charms, and a pendulum. So, Tess, how about gemstones? So there's a lot of ways to read gemstones. Absolutely. You can cast them in that sortilege method. You can put them on top of cards Absolutely, yes. Yes, absolutely. Beat of the Fields. I pull from 3 decks equally. Figure out the spread and pull from 3 decks. Does not apply to something like the Celtic Cross. So does that mean, like if you're doing a 3-card spread, you're going to do 3 cards from each deck? That would be cool. That would be really cool. All right. So now, a couple of questions. Jen Schultz, nice to see you. Do you ever cast, toss, sorry, I forgot the words you used. Cast is fine. Physically on top of a tarot spread to see what sticks? Absolutely, yes. Yes. So then, what are other things that we could do here? So, Jen, it looks like the pendulum was going in a no motion. I noticed that too. And the thing is, when I was holding it where you couldn't see it, it was going circular. But different people's yeses and nos are different at different times. And so, like, if I'm going to do yes or no readings, I always do show me yes, show me no. And you can see how it changes, right? And that usually is my no. You're absolutely right about that. But because I had changed my grasp on it so I could show it to you, and because I hadn't set it for yes or no before, I was just feeling like need to dig in more information. But yeah, you could. All right. So let's see, whatever. I'm sorry, I just overscrolled. Betty, what if you laid your cards in the spread face down and then put charms on each card? Oh, that would be fun. Let's play with that for a minute. That would be super, super fun. So what if, so here we go. So I just pulled 3 cards, and so on this card, we have the sun, on this card, the black cat, on this card, the corgi. I have no idea, by the way, what to do with the corgi, but there it is. So let's look. We've got the shiny, blingy sun with the 7 of Cups reversed. We've got the black cat with strength reverse. That's interesting, cat and cat. And we've got the corgi with the 3 of Wands reversed. Now, all 3 of these cards are reversed. The charms, if I put the charms together, there's like this sense of like, pay attention to just the things that are around you, the animals, the sunshine. And remember that being close to the ground is not necessarily a bad thing. Looking at these 3 cards together, I would see anger. I would see not being sure of the future, not being sure of success. And then I look at these 3 characters, the sun, the black cat, and the corgi. Do they worry about their success? No. They're just successful. They just do their thing. You know, so you can play with it like that. That's kind of fun. Oh, intuitive impressions. The corgi was the queen's companion. Could it be companionship? Sure. Absolutely, yes. Nicholas, I have some decks that are either not standard tarot or oracle advisory, but as standalone divinatory decks. How would you categorize them in a combination? I'm not sure the difference, like what is a standalone divinatory deck versus tarot or oracle? I'm not sure, but you know what I'm going to say is any way that you're comfortable. So now, let's try 3 cards from 2 different decks of tarot and see how that looks. And let's bring in another deck. Let's bring in Stephen Bright's deck, Spirit Within. Okay. So there's a lot of things you could do with this. You could combine each pairing. You could use a pendulum to sort of say, like, which card is most important. And look at this. If we combine this, okay, 9 of Cups is coming up as important, as is 8 of Swords. And here we have anxiety and unhappiness. So those things kind of go together. Here we have 2 threes. Look, they're both threes. 3 of Swords reversed, again, different deck, but again. 3 of Pentacles upright. So they're both threes. Now, I didn't give any position designations here. They're both threes. How important? So we've already been told by the pendulum that our unhappiness is important. How important are these threes? We're moving there. And we're moving here. So also important. Now here we have the 2 of Pentacles reversed, where we can be feeling kind of overwhelmed. The 7 of Swords reversed, where we can really be trying to stay in integrity. So here we're unhappy. Here we are working on healing and success. Here we are overwhelmed but staying in integrity. So apparently the pendulum is not as concerned with our integrity as it might be. That's okay. So we're not out of integrity. So the pendulum did not really move on either of these. So you could take those away if you wanted. And now we just have these. That's a way to play with it. Now you could put oracle cards on it. So what are we saying? We're saying we've been unhappy and anxious, but we are building success and we are healing. So then we can say, okay, what else do we need to know about this? Let's throw some charms on it. We've got the Black Heart. Put those there. Put these here. I'm just putting each charm on the card it's closest to. Okay, so what if we see the charms as solutions to the problems? We've got the alien with the 8 of Swords. We need to not be afraid of things that we don't know. And we need to not be afraid of being different, and we need to believe in ourselves. Here, we need to be at peace, and we need to know that we are loved. The solution here is love and peace. Let's do it, right? Here, I think it's fun that the 3 of Pentacles is this card of success at work, and we've got the bee, and of course bees are workers. And here in this card of healing, we've got finding the pearl in the oyster, we've got the wishbone, the importance of our wishes, and we've got the Black Heart, the heart that has been hurt but continues. And so we are encouraged to believe in beauty, to believe in the well-being of our heart, and to manifest our wishes, right? So that's fun. So let's see. So Trey, if you get the same card doing something like this, is it an extra sign to pay attention to that card? Oh, heck yeah. Yes. Justine, it's fascinating to hear how you all combine different tools. My mind is like blown in overdrive. I don't see myself branching out anytime soon. I'm too attached to my RWWS still. Absolutely. And yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to. And if you do, just do it in a playful way. Do it for fun. Tortoiseshell Moon. When I do 3 cards from 2 different tarot decks like that, I use the top row as the conscious things we're aware of, and the bottom 3 as the subconscious, what's beneath the surface. I love that. That is so smart. That's so good. Very good. All right. A lot of talk about the corgis. Y'all like the corgis. Very good. Lisa, I pulled 3 cards from my Oracle deck. Card 1 is reconciliation. Card 2 is closure. Card 3 is forgiveness. Wow. Wow. So Trey, you got your Conscious Spirit Oracle as a gift. You really use it. I love that deck. I really do. I can't always figure out how to use it. You know, like I need more ways to use that deck. So let's play with that one. Hang on. B, go away. Okay. Here we go. There we go. You go over here. Let's play with this. What if we started with 3 cards from this deck? I'm such a pansy sometimes, but I think it's because when I'm learning a new system, I want to study it for like months before I even consider using it for practical guidance. That's where the charms are so freaking awesome. The whole point here is there's nothing to study. Nothing to study. There's no way to get it wrong. It's just whatever it is. And that's why this is so fun, because it gets you out of that study brain. And I mean, I'm all for the study brain. You know, I'm all for the study brain. But I think it's good to get out of the study brain too. And that's where cards like this too, because they have stuff already written on them. So what if we did 3 cards here? Okay. Celebrate life, release, Forest Frolic Maiden. I like studying too, for sure. I celebrate every day by honoring and respecting all life on Mother Earth. I release that which does not serve my higher purpose with gratitude and love. I acknowledge my inner child and open my heart to the joy she brings. So those are all 3 beautiful things. So then perhaps we'll do a tarot card. And how shall I do that? Celebrate life. 8 of Pentacles reversed. Sometimes you got to take a break from work. And let's put a charm on that, a leaf. I need to take a break from work, go out in nature in order to celebrate every day, honoring and respecting all life on Mother Earth. Okay, fair. Release. I release that which does not serve my higher purpose with gratitude and love. 2 of Wands reversed to me would say, and I should do that right the heck now. Right the heck now. So, a feather. And I think it's fun that this is an angel and here's a feather. So it looks like there is some spiritual help to help me do this. And in honoring and acknowledging my inner child, the King of Cups, I think remembering that my inner child is full of love, and look, here's Tinkerbell, love and magic, yay. Yay, that's fabulous. So, you know, there's no right way to do this. We can just play, and that's the important thing. Let's see. So this oracle is Conscious Spirit Oracle deck. And suppose, so let's play with this for a minute. And I will challenge you, I'm not going to get to every person's question. But can you give me, in our last 6 minutes, can you give me a question that you have been unable to answer in your own divination, where your divinations are just coming up crazy or weird or without a clear answer? Give me such a question. Tortoiseshell Moon, I often use an oracle deck using usually a soul card as a final message to tie the reading together. I'm definitely going to use charms now. Feel inspired. That's so good. So good. So is there a question that you have not been able to answer? While I'm waiting for such a question, let's pull out Lenormand. And with Lenormand, like, you really do want a question going into it, right? So let's pull a tarot card to give us a question. The Devil, reversed. So the question is going to be, how can I make better choices about my own well-being and say no to chocolate cake, right? How can I make better choices about my own well-being? The Tree and the Book. So there are specific ways to read tree, book versus book, tree. There's specific, Lenormand is like very, very specific, right? But I would look at this and I would say, on one hand, learn the rules of what I have to do and follow a system. And the Tree can be specifically about health and well-being, and so know that my health and well-being would benefit from this, right? Okay, so here's a couple of questions that I want to try answering, not with my usual oracle. So here we have Gaian Tarot, which is also sort of different, right, from regular tarot. So here we go. Trey, is this the right path for me? I get Elder of Air, which is like King of Air, so I'm going to say yes, it is the right path, but let's confirm with the Pendulum. All right. All you can see is my hand. That's so funny. Can you see through my fingers? It's swinging. So, pulled one card with a weird deck, use the Pendulum, and the answer is yes. What should I speak about on Sunday from DH? Let's use this deck. The Magician. Let's clarify with a charm. How we learn to love those that are hard to love. How about that? Something around learning, communication, and love, and loving thy neighbor. Betty, I'm struggling with learning reversals. Okay, that means we have to do another reversals class. We'll do that. Intuitive impressions. Should I take the leap into a new course I've been wanting to take? Let's do just some charms for that. So looking at Ladybug, Sun, Love, the Dolphins, and the Elephant, I instinctively say yes to that. But then I get the Knight of Cups reversed, and I wonder if there is some issue with time, with energy, with money. And so you should do it if you can do it. And you have to look at whether you can do it, which leads us to another question, which is, can you do it? Can you do it? Does it make sense for you to do it right now? And the answer, Knight of Wands, right side up, yeah, you can. You can and you should. It's not going to be easy, but you should. Okay. Okay, Sarah. How can I do some much-needed shadow work around healing my first relationship, but in a safe way? Let's do these. White Pine, longevity and bright future. Recognize that everything that has hurt you has brought you to where you are. What else do you need to know? You need to know that we all have our own story. Here's the storybook. We all have our own story, and you are important in each other's stories. Now that brings us to new questions, such as, why was it important that you be in this person's story? You taught this person about what works and doesn't work for them. Why was it important that this person be in your story? It taught you about love. You both learned from each other. So, you can see we come up with different questions from the different tools. And you can see how, just being very open to play, to get your questions answered. Use whatever tools can answer your questions. Put them together in whatever way makes sense. This is aesthetic. This is fun. This is deeply spiritual. This is deeply intuitive. And it is absolutely sort of free form and somewhat lawless. So enjoy it like that. Sarah, that is very confirming. Thank you. And I love how you turned more conversational tarot after that mixed media message, right? Because it was necessary. And that's the key. Do what is necessary. Do what works. Friends, I want to thank you so much for being here. Special shout out to the members and the moderators. We really appreciate you. Please do like this video. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. Leave a comment. I appreciate all of you. I will look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for taking some time to come play with me tonight. We'll see you soon.